Welcome back to the podcast, you beautiful soul. We are going deep today. We are speaking about how to heal trauma, how to heal wounds, how to let go from the past, heal from the past, process from the past, so you can grow and be your most authentic self. So I think just to kick this off, guys, we're going to be going quite deep today. I'm going to be sharing books that have really served me and helped me with my journey and my healing journey and what I've been able to help clients with. But just a disclaimer, I am not a trauma therapist. I am not a therapist by any means. I am someone who's on their healing journey, who has done a ton of inner work on myself. So I'm sharing about my journey, what's worked for me, without necessarily going down the quote traditional route. And I have nothing against that. I think that's fantastic. I refer people to therapists all the time, but this is my journey, what I've done, what I do, and what I've been able to give back to some clients as well when it comes to healing. Okay, so just a bit of disclaimer. Take this as a grain of salt. This is just my journey and what's really served me, helped me heal my stuff, helped my clients heal their stuff. So I hope you get some value from this. So without further ado, if you don't already, subscribe to the channel. If you could like this video, comment down below. That would be amazing. Just helps with the algorithm. Let's rock and roll. Firstly, I'm going to share my top 6 books that have helped me heal. So in order of what has impacted me. So this is top 6. We're going from 6 to 1. Okay, so I'm going to finish with the one that's helped me the most, but they've all helped me significantly. Okay, so first one is probably the more popular one in terms of, I think, book sales. It's called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LaPria, the holistic psychologist. So something I really got out of this is just about healing the inner child, about setting boundaries for yourself, and I guess reparenting yourself. That was something I really got out of this. The new theory of trauma. It was really, really awesome. So I highly recommend every single one of these. Now, I really enjoyed it. I thought just based on the amount of people that speak about it, I would have got a little bit more out of it, but not to take anything away from this one. It was really, really awesome. I'm probably due for a reread. I've only read this one once, but it was really awesome. So it was fantastic. My partner's read this as well. You've probably heard or seen about it before. It's a really awesome book. So highly recommend this one. So second one, I've read this one twice. This is called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, MD, FICS. So this was really awesome. So he's pretty much, the short version of it, it's about self-image. It's about how you see yourself. And he's a plastic surgeon, one of the best in the world. I don't know where he was from. I can't remember. I think it was the US. And anyways, he would have these people that would come to him who wanted to get like their nose done or some plastic surgery of some means. And they thought it would fix the way that they see themselves and fix their confidence, etc. And even when they do the operation and give them exactly what they're after, if you don't change the way you view yourself, it doesn't change the experience that you have. And it's pretty much about doing the inner work versus the outer work. That's pretty much what I got out of that, okay? Next book, You Can Heal Your Life, Louise Hayes. What I really love about this book, if you go towards the back of this book, it has how your physical symptoms, how they're showing up because of psychological inner work or things that aren't working. So for example, if you're experiencing a lot of cramps, the problem, the cause could be tension, fear, gripping, or holding on. If you've got things like being overweight, often represents fear and shows a need for protection. Fear may be covering for hidden anger and resistance to forgive. So it's showing how your physical manifestations are coming from something deeper. So I really, really enjoyed that book. I've only read that one once. I probably need to read that one as well. Next one, The Body Keeps the Score. I do apologize because I can't pronounce this gentleman's name. Bessel van der Kolk. Hopefully I didn't screw that up too much. But it's mind, brain, and the body in the transformation of trauma. So something that I just really got out of this, it's pretty much the name of the book. The Body Keeps the Score. If you have a trauma or something that is traumatic to you, you might mentally forget about it and not think about it, but your body and your nervous system will not forget about it. It will continue to get triggered, which is revealing the trauma you haven't worked through. So you can put your head in the sand and ignore it, but your body, your nervous system, your human spirit will not forget it, and it will continue to show and reveal that it's still there, even though you put your head in the sand and you've tried to avoid the actual trauma. So I really enjoyed that one. I've only done this one once, so I do need to. I want to redo this one again. Now, this is actually one I'm finishing this one today. So I've got 4 pages left in this one. This is my second read of this book. It's Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. This is probably the more challenging book to read, but so powerful. In relation to the topic of healing, the part that I really got from this book, he talks about like, he is number one in the world, in my opinion, from bridging the mystic and the science. Like he has people in his events, blind people seeing, deaf people hearing, people with stage 4 cancer reversing the process, people in wheelchairs standing up. His transformations are insane. Like it's hard to put into words what is in this book. But in the relation to trauma and the topic of this podcast, I think what's really powerful from this book is if you live in the past, you recreate the past. Your mind does not know the difference between something that it experiences and it in your current reality right now and what you relive in your mind. Because when we're in fight or flight, we're in the stress, the hormones of stress. You're on fight or flight. Your immune system is not active. You're on like literally there's a tiger and you're trying to survive and fight or hide from the tiger. But if you're constantly reliving that past, reliving that trauma, then you constantly got your body in fight or flight and it destroys your body. And then all these illnesses, just like Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, all of these physical manifestations start to show up, but it's coming from psychological things that you're doing to yourself. So that's fantastic. I'm rereading it right now. I've got literally like 4 pages left to finish it for the second time. Now, these are my top 2 books. These are probably the ones I reference the most for myself and for the clients that I do a bit of healing work for. This one, You're Not Broken. Break Free from Trauma and Reclaim Your Life by Dr. Sarah Woodhouse. This one is fantastic. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to share about this one. So I'll share these 2 very soon, the top 2, because I'm actually going to use some of the steps from the book to really help you with your healing journey in this podcast today. So I'll come back to this one. I'll keep the top 2 here. And the number 1, this is my number 1 self-development, self-discovery, self-transformational book I've got. Dr. John Demartini, The Breakthrough Experience. A revolutionary new approach to personal transformation. So that is my number 1. Okay, number 1 recommendation. So I'm going to use those 2. I'm going to come back to these 2. So those are some book recommendations for people that are self-healing, that are self-growth driven, that want to work on themselves, they want to do some inner work. They're my top 6. So go enjoy your healing journey, my friend. Let's go through it. So first things first. Trauma is unprocessed memories. So that's from this book here. You're Not Broken. Trauma is unprocessed memories. And what's in this book, which is fantastic, she has a formula for trauma. Just paraphrasing it, because I might get the order wrong here, but it's high levels of threat, high levels of powerlessness to defend yourself, and high levels of overwhelm. So when we go through experiences like that, it can be traumatic. Now, what's traumatic to one person will be different to someone else. 2 people can go through the exact same event. One person, it can be traumatic, and one person, it cannot. She also mentions 3 things. Trauma, traumatic reactions, and triggers. So there's 3 things that she references in this book. Trauma is the event itself. So mum and dad were abusive. You got abused. You got raped. You got abandoned. You got isolated. You got taken advantage of. You went through XYZ. The event itself. So there's the trauma itself. The second part is the traumatic reaction. What do you do, or what did you do when that trauma happened? And it's also known as a coping mechanism. So for example, say a lot of pain happened to you, you went through something traumatic, and you went to food. You started eating. This is where binge eating can become a habit. Something traumatic happened, and your way of dealing with it was to go eat food. Or it's to go smoke a cigarette. Or it's to go watch TV. Or it's to disassociate. Or it's to get depressed, or it's to be anxious, or it's to be violent, to get angry, to get whatever it may be. We have our own traumatic reactions. So there's trauma. That's the first part. Traumatic reactions, the second part, and then triggers. Triggers is what sets off the traumatic reaction, which is revealing a trauma. So for example, a simple one, a dog. Say you got attacked by a dog when you were younger and you felt fucking anxious, because that's literally the definition of feeling anxious, is when there's perceived threat. So you get attacked by a dog and you feel very scared, anxious, hurt in that moment. Whenever you see a dog now, it will probably trigger that trauma that you've been through. Your traumatic reaction is to feel anxious, to feel scared, to get nervous. The trauma itself was the original attack. And then when you see a dog or something that reminds you of a dog, it triggers you. So you got trauma, traumatic reactions, and triggers. Now, the work that I do is helping people become conscious. What are your triggers? And then what are your traumatic reactions? So you can be conscious of it. Then where is that original trauma? Where's it coming from? Because if we go back to the first step I just gave, trauma is unprocessed memories. So the question becomes, how do you process those memories? That's the question. That leads me to the second book. Dr. John Demartini, The Breakthrough Experience. In this book itself, it has the formula of how to process anything. The way he words it, and it's the way I word it as well now, is trauma or judgment. And judgment or trauma is a high level of judgment. Like, you could not like someone, or you could fucking hate someone because they've done something horrible to you, which is known as something traumatic, or something just very abusive, something that you don't like. So trauma, high levels of trauma, is also known as a lopsided perception. So we perceive things day in, day out, every single second, every single millisecond, we're perceiving things. And if there's a lopsidedness to the perspective or perception, then there's judgment there, and you attract the counterbalance to that to balance that out. Now, I don't want to go too sort of sciencey here because I'll probably lose a lot of you guys on this video. But what I want you to understand is, if something is traumatic to you, you've got trauma, and we all do, by the way. And just to go back to the other book, You're Not Broken, Dr. Sarah Woodhouse, in there, I love the way she articulates it. There's, quote, big traumas and quotations, things like rape, things like war, things like abuse, things like neglect, things like abandonment, like the, quote, bigger ones. And then she also terms the other category as other traumas, because you don't want to call it little traumas. You don't want to invalidate people's experiences, right? But other traumas can be things like not being seen, heard, and loved by your parents, feeling socially isolated, feeling abandoned. I mentioned that earlier. Having parental figures that are addicted to drugs or alcohol, or who are abusive. Whatever. This is a good line. I got this from Peter Crone. So if anyone who knows Peter Crone, he's a fantastic guy. I love his work. The absence of love is traumatic. Listen to that. The absence of love is traumatic. Again, to children, to babies. We literally need love and physical love to live. They did this horrible study, and you'll understand why I'm saying horrible study, years and years and years ago. It was when they had babies. It was during one of the wars, and I forget the details of it, but during the war, one of the wars, these babies were born, and they were put into captivity, where they were put in like these little bubble things, these little like ways for them to live. And they were given all of the nutrients they needed to live. They gave them all the whatever they need, the milk, the nutrients they need to survive and to live. But they got no physical touch, no love. No love that a mother naturally wants to give to their baby. Guess what? They started to die. And they named it failure to thrive. We need love to live. So the absence of love can be traumatic. And this is where people, like, and I'm guilty of this, I thought I didn't have any trauma because I wasn't abused, I wasn't assaulted, I wasn't raped. I didn't have those things. But I had fucking tons of moments where I felt emotionally unsafe. I felt and experienced the lack of love, the lack of feeling seen, the feeling lost, feeling abandoned. I had those, and those were what were my traumas were, and what triggered me, and where my healing opportunities were. I'm getting a little bit off track, so let's bring it back. So trauma is unprocessed memories. How do you process it? It's learning to see how there is balance in everything. How can you see the purpose from the pain? How can you see the wisdom from the wounds? It's easier said than done. This is why I like the quote, but it's a bit frustrating when people don't actually back it up. They say, life's always happening for you, not to you. You've probably heard that a ton in this. If you're into self-development, you probably heard that a ton. Tony Robbins uses it all the time. And it's absolutely true. Life is happening for you, not to you. It's absolutely true. But how do you apply that when you were physically assaulted, when you were raped, when you were abandoned, when you were whatever it was? How do you apply it then? It's hard. Using the formula from the book, this book here, you're able to do that. you're able to break down specifically what is it that is traumatic to you, which is painful to you. It allows you to see the balance in everything. You can see how I'll use some examples of myself and some clients that I've worked with. So for me, I had a lot of pain around emotional volatility. I had a lot of emotional volatility in my upbringing from parents, from family members, etc. And it made me feel very hurt. It made me feel very unsafe, and it made me feel very, I guess, emotionally volatile. That's what it made me feel. Well, what's the benefit to that? It's made me very emotionally smart. It's made me very good at making other people feel safe. It's gifted me with that gift. I've had a client, I did a session with one client, and she was getting triggered a lot in her relationship. And I said, okay, well, what specifically is triggering you? And we broke it down, and the trait or action was abandonment. I felt abandoned from my partner. I said, okay, well, where have you been through abandonment in your life or experienced abandonment in your upbringing? And she knew what it was straight away. She was like, oh my God, my parents. They wouldn't come to my school rehearsals, my school events. They weren't there for me. They left me behind a couple of times, and it was really, really painful for me. I said, great. What's the benefits of being abandoned? And that's a question most people aren't willing to ask, and they're not willing to look for the answer. But we found the answer. We found many answers. It made her incredibly strong. Independence. She was a single mother of two. She ran her own business, was making $500,000 profit per year. She trained every single morning. She had her whole life so organized and so just well done. And it required a lot of fucking strength. Guess where the strength came from? Guess where that independence came from? Does the bird that never gets kicked out of the nest ever learn how to fly? Absolutely not. Because you cannot have up without down. You can't have happiness without sadness. You can't have pain without purpose. You can't have wounds without wisdom. So it's learning to go back and to see how life is happening for you, not to you. And it can be hard. It can be emotional. It can bring up a lot of stuff. Hence the work. That's the work. That's what we do. And it can be challenging. So what I want to invite you to do is I want you to lean into your own healing journey. Because people will say, another disclaimer I want to put out there, there's so many ways to heal. There's so many ways. I've done breathwork sessions where I've had some incredible healing experiences. I've done therapy sessions, which have been fucking life-changing to me. I've had coaches, NLP coaches, mindset coaches, leadership coaches, where just having me feel seen, heard, loved, and helping me process things have been so healing for me. I've been down the plant medicine route where I've done plant medicine sessions, and I've done some incredible fucking integrating and healing within my own life. There are so many ways to heal. You want to find the ones that work best for you. I actually recommend trying all of them. I've got my styles of healing. I'm more of a head-heavy person where you can actually analytically break it down step by step. That's sort of my style. I also do lean into the plant medicine route, and I can't tell my clients to do plant medicine, but it is something that I say, look, if you're open to it, explore it in your own time. But you want to find your ways of healing. Because if we go back a step to the triggers, traumatic reactions, and traumas, until you heal the trauma, you will continue to be triggered. I use this quote all the time. Life will present you with people and circumstances to reveal the wounds you haven't healed through. And another quote I use, whatever triggers you the most will heal you the most. Because when you're triggered, it's giving you awareness of where the wound is. So if you use that awareness and be like, great, I'm triggered right now. Where's the trauma? Where's this coming from? And don't get me wrong, you might not be able to remember it. It might have happened when you were 2 years old, 6 months old, 6 years old, 12 years old. You might not remember it. That's why it's a journey. You're never fully healed. And whoever fucking believes that is full of shit. And to back up what I've just said, show me someone who's never triggered. Show me. I guarantee you are. I guarantee I do as well. I'm a lot less triggered. I'm probably a 10th as triggered as I used to be because I've done a lot of work, but I've still got tons to go. And where will you do most amount of your healing work? In an intimate relationship, because they're going to see more sides to you than anyone else. Because when you meet someone at work or in public or a client or whatever, they're only seeing limited sides to who you are. However, in an intimate relationship, they're going to see all sides to you. Well, all sides that you feel safe enough to show them, right? Hopefully you're in a safe relationship where you can express your authentic, vulnerable self, but they're going to see you when you're stressed, when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're down, when you're up, when you're being weird, when you're whatever. They're going to see more sides to you. Therefore, they're going to shine light and awareness onto the wounds that you haven't healed through and therefore triggering you. And then if you have the tools, the awareness, the consciousness to start to process it, you will do more fucking healing than anywhere else. And that's what I fucking love about relationships. It's actually my favorite part. I have done more healing as a fucking man. I've healed my inner child more than anything else in my relationship with my beautiful fiance, because we shine lights on those parts of us. And it's fucking normal. It's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing if you have the awareness to heal through it. So I kind of want to wrap this up for you. Remember, trauma is unprocessed memories. Remember that there's three things. There's trauma, traumatic reactions, and triggers. I want you to be aware of your triggers, and I want you to find where that trauma is coming from, and I want you to start to process them. How do you process them? I've got my style. I've got my ways of doing it. It's by breaking down specifically what the thing is that's triggering you and finding the benefits to what that thing is. So again, what's the benefit of being abandoned? What's the benefit of being lied to? What's the benefit of being assaulted? What's the benefit of being raped? Yes, these are fucking hard questions. They are. And if you don't, people will say, well, there are no benefits. Yes, there are. I guarantee you, if you Google whatever you've been through and jump on Google and write successful people who have been or who have experienced, and write down whatever it is, rape, abuse, assault, whatever, you write that down, it will give you tons of examples. Oprah Winfrey, I love her as an example. She was born to a 14-year-old mother. Fucking, that's a hell of a start to get started. She was in and out of foster care her entire childhood. She was sexually assaulted half a dozen times before the age of 13, or before the age of 14, sorry. She gave birth to a stillborn child at the age of 14. She was fired from jobs because of the color of her skin and the way that she looked. And look who she's fucking become. Does that woman have some fucking purpose and passion to her? Abso-fucking-lutely. Do you need to go through that to become successful? No, you don't. But greater the pain, greater the purpose. Once it's healed. Until it's healed, it will just continue to trigger you and set you off. And you'll blame and you'll project and you'll do all those things that people do when they're on their healing journey. So those are the things I'm going to invite you to do. Be conscious of what triggers you. Be conscious of what it is that you've been through. Now, on that second point, it might be hard to remember because you might not remember it. It might have happened when you're 6 months old, 2 years old, 5 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, whatever. That's where things like meditation, breath work, Reiki healing, energy healers, plant medicines. I've done some fucking insane healing work down the plant medicine route. Obviously, do your own education and look into your own stuff. If you're interested in this topic, just send me a message. I'm happy to give you my 2 cents on that. But it's your journey. If you're consciously choosing not to do the work, then you are choosing to continue to be weighed down by the shit you haven't worked through. And I know that's hard to hear, but it's the truth. If you're listening to this right now, you've got access to the internet. There is no excuse for you not to heal. I just gave you 6 books that will give you answers to a lot of the questions. You've obviously got access to me. I do tons of podcasts. I do tons of posts on this stuff. I have work that I do. I work with clients personally, and I have courses that help people with all this stuff. There's no excuse. And there's free content. Oh, this podcast is free. There's tons of free content out there. Those books, like each of those books would be like, what, $20 a pop? Like, there's no excuse. If you're choosing not to heal, you're choosing to be weighed down by the shit you haven't healed through. I hope this helped, guys. I hope you got some value from this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Comment down below. Please look at whatever route of healing you want to go, whether it's therapy, whether it's coaching, whether it's healing, whether it's plant medicine, whether it's meditation, whether it's whatever it is. Find your way. I hope I served you today. I hope you got value from this today. If you're interested in working with me, if you go to the link below, there is a link for a free call with me. only if you're willing to take a drink. You can drag a horse to water, but you can't make a drink. If you're willing to take a drink and you're willing to put the work in for yourself, and you're in a position to invest into yourself, I would love to serve you. This is my mission. This is my purpose. My purpose is to heal and improve the consciousness of the world. I hope I've done a little bit of that today for you. And if you wanted to go further with me, it would be my absolute pleasure and privilege to do so. I love you guys. Share this with a friend. Share this with someone. I fucking love you guys. Subscribe if you haven't already. I fucking love you. See you soon. Bye.